Section 5.2, Polynomials and Polynomial Functions. Again, this is review, but I do want to go over it because we use some of these concepts in the next couple of chapters. So what does it mean to be a monomial? A monomial would be if you had one term. And we got to realize what a term is. One term is not a variable. Terms are separated by plus signs and minus signs. So one term, an example, could be 3x squared y. That's one term. A binomial is two terms. And with two terms, again, here's an example. We could have 3x squared plus y. That's a binomial. And then if we said we wanted a trinomial, that means we want three terms. An example of that could be 3 plus x squared plus y. That means you have three terms. So terms are separated by plus signs and minus signs. Past three terms, we just call it a polynomial. And a polynomial is just a monomial, a one-termer, or an expression that can be written as a sum of monomials. So we're just putting monomials together by addition or subtraction. So the degree of a monomial, you need to know what the degree is and keep that in your book of knowledge when you get into college algebra. Of a monomial, so we're talking about this thing right here, is the sum of the exponents of all the variables. So what would be the degree of this one? Well, y has the power 1, x has the power 2. We don't count the 3. So 2 plus 1 is 3. Now, this is different. The degree of a polynomial is the greatest degree of any of the terms in the polynomial. So that means we find the degree of each monomial and we pick the highest, and that's going to be the degree of the polynomial. So we have something called the degree of a monomial and something called the degree of a polynomial. So find the degrees and state if you have a monomial, a binomial, or a trinomial. Here we have one term, so this is a monomial. Here we have three terms, one term, two terms, three terms. So that is a trinomial. And here we have a one term, two terms, which would be a binomial. So now we need to figure out what is the degree. Since this is a monomial, we take the monomial and we look at the sum of the exponents of all the variables. So x has a power 1, y has a power 4, so the degree is 4 plus 1, which is 5. Now, when it asks for the degree of a trinomial, we need to find the greatest degree of any of the one terms, which is a monomial. So the degree of the first term is a 3. The degree of the second term is a 1. And the degree of the third term is actually 0 because the degree comes from the variable and there is no variable. So what is the highest degree? 3. So the degree here is 3. Now some students will always ask me, why do you not add 3 and 1? Because the 1 is from a different term. You only sum in a term together. So on number 3, we have x to the first and y to the first, so the degree of this term is 2. We have x to the third, y to the fourth, so 3 plus 4 is 7. So that would be the highest degree of the monomial, so that would be the degree of the polynomial is 7. So keep that in mind, especially when you get into college algebra, that you know what the degree is. So let's look at one, because they're going to go pretty quick, I would hope. I want you to add or subtract and then write in descending order. So descending order just means from highest power down to lowest power. Now once in a while, some student on the test will take this and they don't really look that there's a plus sign in between. They just see parentheses and they start multiplying. Don't multiply, don't distribute that times that and that times that and that. Oh my goodness, that's going to take forever. All they wanted you to do is add. So why are there parentheses? Because they're trying to stress to you that this is the first polynomial with 4 terms. This is the second polynomial with 4 terms. And they want you to take the first polynomial and add it to the second. That's all those parentheses mean. So in reality, we could take off the first parentheses because that does nothing to that polynomial. Now in the second polynomial we should distribute a plus sign, but a plus sign doesn't change any signs. What does matter is if you had a subtraction sign, because then you would need to distribute the subtraction sign. So at this point we'll take our like terms and combine them. So 12r to the fourth plus 7r to the fourth is going to give me 19r to the fourth. Negative 5r squared plus 3, and keep the sign of the larger. Powers are not changing because we're just adding and subtracting. We have a positive 8r and a positive 2r, which gives you a positive 10r. And then we have a negative 15 and a negative 9, which gives you a negative 24, because it's the same sign, so you add and keep the sign. And that is all you're asked to do. Add the polynomials, and we are done. Make sure you don't change any of the signs because we are not doing any multiplication or raising it to powers or anything like that. So on this number 2, these first parentheses we do not need. But the second parentheses, we got to be very careful. We need to distribute our minus sign times every term. So negative times a 3x is a negative 3x. And negative times a positive is a negative 6x to the third. And a negative times a negative is a positive. So all you got to do now is combine your like terms and go in descending order. So starting with the highest power, we have 4x to the third minus 6x to the third, which gives me negative 2x to the third. You have a negative 3x and a negative 3x. Those do not cancel out. A negative 3 and a negative 3 give you negative 6x. Again, we are only adding or subtracting, so powers do not change. And lastly, we have a positive 4. I think my pen's running out, so I'll switch. A positive 4 and a positive 5, which gives you a positive 9. We are in descending order, so we are done. So in the last one, we do have fractions, but the fractions are nice because they gave us. So we are going to rewrite it and distribute our negative to every term. So we have 2 over 7 u to the fourth plus 3/4 u to the third minus u squared minus u plus 3. Nothing changes there. When we distribute our negative, a negative times 3/7 is negative 3/7 u to the fourth. Negative times negative is a positive 1/4 u cubed. A negative times a positive is a negative 3u squared. A negative times a negative is a positive 4u. And a negative times a negative is a positive 1. Don't skip too many steps because sometimes you might make mistakes, so write it all out. And now let's combine like terms. We have 2/7 u to the fourth minus 3/7 u to the fourth. We already have a common denominator of 7, so 2 minus 3 is negative 1, so negative 1/7 u to the fourth. We have a positive 3/4 u cubed and a positive 1/4 u cubed. Well, 3/4 plus 1/4 is 4/4, and 4 over 4 is 1, so we get positive u cubed. Then we have a negative u squared and a negative 3u squared, which would be a negative 4u squared. Then we have a minus u and a plus 4u, opposite signs, so we subtract and keep the sign of the larger. So 4 minus 1 is 3. And then we have a positive 3 and a positive 1, which gives me a positive 4. In descending order, and we're done.